Welcome back to Liberty in Finance. As you all know, we are live at the Rule Symposium on Natural Resources Investing here in Boca Raton, Florida. I'm with John Mark Staude. He's the president and CEO of Riverside Resources. We've not had the chance of interviewing you on Liberty in Finance before, but any friend of Rick's is a friend of ours. So we wanted you to have a chance to introduce our viewers to what's the unique value proposition of Riverside Resources. And I understand you're involved in silver, and there'll be more to talk to us too about that. And one of the things that we always look towards is to try to understand, why is this important right now? What's the big picture of trends in both demand and supply and development and exploration, and just help us understand how Riverside fits into that big picture. But first, your view of sort of that macro view of the environment we find ourselves in right now.
Well, you know, the big scale of what you see is that in the world, there's lots of demand, over 8 billion people. And with such a large demand, there needs to be supply. And not in my backyard. People don't want it in their own backyard. So the reality is, we don't want to allow for development of new resources, but we want to consume. Right now, we want zero consumption. We want all these things to happen. We definitely are trying to get zero carbon emissions. Well, how are we going to do that? So electric batteries, all kinds of demand now for lithium, for different elements. So Riverside is a generator company. Rick Rule has been a great friend. This is actually our 14th year at this conference with Rick. We've been in here, we've been going for over 16 years as Riverside as a public company. So we've been through the ups and downs. And so we definitely see that in the macro picture, there is more and more stress coming from Asia against North America. We see more and more stress around, where are we going to get critical elements? Where are we going to get metals that we're going to need to fund the future? Also about gold. Gold is used as a backup of currency. We're definitely seeing a challenge, the de-dollarization at a global and market scale. So Riverside is a company that was founded around getting royalties, going to the field, finding projects. And Rick Rule likes to come and say, look, go with a company where other people have done the due diligence. So for us, the other companies, we've done work with the world's largest mining companies. So in the macro level, if you go for the things that the biggest mining companies want to go for, and Riverside's trying to develop those, and those major companies are funding the work on those projects that Riverside has. They've done the due diligence, and they're going for major elements that are going to be critical. For example, copper. Riverside has copper. We have copper projects in Mexico. We have copper projects in Canada. Gold, the macro level for gold. And we're wondering, what price is gold going to go to? And it's always, John Mark, what's your prediction and everything? And it's like, well, fundamentally, gold is part of a portfolio. It's part of a currency. It's a backup for the sustainability in the US dollar, particularly that it's not that you're going to go on one-to-one, but it gives some type of level of value. Riverside, having royalties, having those type of things in the macro level is vital to own those resources, and that's what Riverside does.
That's one of the things that Rick has always talked to us about, is the difference between sort of this debt deficit paradigm that dominates the Western financial world versus hard assets that are actually something that you can put your hand on. And so now Riverside's operates in which jurisdictions? You mentioned a few of them.
Yeah, so we're a prospect generator, and we have no debt. Rick is totally right that you hear about this debt paradigm and leverage. Riverside owns our projects. We get the mineral rights in Canada. We get the mineral rights in the United States. We get the mineral rights in Mexico. We do not bet on just one place. In each country, we get multiple different provinces or states, multiple different projects. We don't bet on just one commodity. We go for where there is quality. Myself, I have a PhD. I studied mineral economics and economic geology at the University of Arizona, lived in Arizona, come from the city of Riverside, California, thus the name Riverside as a company. So we're fully dedicated to this. So we work in multiple jurisdictions for multiple commodities, and particularly, as you say, as Rick, don't have debt. Really helpful. So we own the projects, and instead of getting debt, we get partners to fund the work on the projects in different type of business transactions that way.
And for those who would be considering them as investors, people who might become investors in Riverside, how long has Riverside been around?
I founded the company, it's been going for 16 years. I started the company in 2007. But in fact, I started the business idea in 1992. In 1992, there was a group, Almaden, and these guys that were doing this prospect generation approach. And I was working at the U.S. Geological Survey. I was the expert inside the U.S. government to study the mineral resources of Mexico and on a bilateral study. And I said, you know, that's interesting. And so we built a database. And that database was initially available to the public. Of course, over time, things get out of whack. I kept track of that, and I reconstituted and built it into Riverside's proprietary database. So although we've been going for 16 years, the business model has been going for an earlier 16. So I've been really focused on this for 30 years, and thus it is a life work, and it's a life passion. And people go, Mark, you really love this. You're so into this, and I am. I'm the biggest shareholder. I'm very big into it, very committed to it. I just bought more shares last week, and it's really fun to do, and it's a great business approach to own projects.
Many people are aware, when they think of mining, they think about just the operation of a mining. But you keep saying we're a generator. Help our viewers understand what that means.
That is so important, and you're so correct. And we have to be so careful with language. Mining, as I see it, is digging stuff out of the ground or taking it out of the ground. Before that, you need to have a deposit, and that's exploration. So there's mine exploitation, taking it out, and exploration. So we're doing exploring, we're finding. So when you find, you have two parts. Initially where it is, and then drilling it up to show that it's economic. So that initial part has the great leverage. Rick likes leverage, we like leverage. This is the way to do it. If we can go out and find projects that have the potential and put holes into them, we can have great upside wins. Clearly there are losses, but they're not as big of losses. So you don't have to put so much money, and you could have a big upside. So clearly you have to try many shots. So if we can do that with partners, so that's exploration. So it's mining in exploration. It's a great investment. It's so important for the community, it's so important for the world to get, because it replenishes. The depletion of mining needs to be replenished by exploration.
Yeah, that's one of the things that Rick has pointed out to us over the past about 3 years, is the mismatch between the rising demand, and that's expected to continue for the foreseeable future, a decade or more, versus the dearth of actual exploration activity. He said, well, when you have economic hard times, companies tend to pull their expenses back in, and one way they can do that is say, okay, we'll just operate. We won't do exploring. So that leaves a kind of a backlog of undiscovered things, but it also means we're behind the curve in terms of what's needed. Can you talk briefly on that mismatch between supply and demand? It
totally is, and that's why Riverside, I had to leave working in the major company and go and work in exploration in a small company, because every time it came to a pullback, we'd close everything. And that was the opportunity. So every time we closed, everything would be dropped off. I said, I'm going to build a business that will survive and prosper when everything pulls back. So when everyone pulls back, we acquire. Today we announced another acquisition. Okay. Just today was a news release. So I'm buying right now. We have cash, we have no debt. We were preparing ourselves. Rick Rule has always said, keep 50% in cash. Well, we have. So we're sitting with 75% in cash. So right now we're acquiring assets, and it will take off. And it is taking off. And look, we have a database. We've built ourselves for this. We've been in business for 16 years and not blown up. We were preparing for 16 years before we built the business. We acquire these projects, and the world needs them. So hard to permit, Rick is right. So we're definitely getting to this challenging point where there's not enough development and there's huge demand. And I don't know, I have children, they keep wanting more stuff. Everyone wants a new phone, everyone wants a new car. Now it has to be an EV car. That's a lot of consumption, takes a lot of new metal, and there are no new mines. So that's a problem.
Well, it's for viewers who want to find out more about Riverside Resources, we'll put the link to the stock information and the website in the description of this video. So folks, just take a peek in the description of the video. You'll find a quick link on how to get to Riverside Resources. Any tips to people how they can best make use of the Riverside website when they get there?
Please do. So it's rivres.com. We have an 800 toll-free number as well. We also are on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're also on LinkedIn, and we really are open to discussion. Please contact us, myself glad to discuss about any things that are kind of for the newsletter, for your readers, glad to discuss Riverside Resources or any other of the mining companies that might be of interest.
Well, we're missing you all at the Rule Symposium here, but you can get access to the live stream of the rest of the sessions and 6 months continued access to all of those sessions, so you won't miss anything by following the link that you'll find in the description of this video as well. So always grateful. John Mark Staude, thank you for joining us on Liberty and Finance.
Thank you very much.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and this is the Miles Franklin Weekly Special for July 24th through July 31st, 2023, while supplies last. And on this one, supplies may not last long, because this week we feature 2023 American Silver Eagles at just $8.99 over spot, our lowest price on Silver Eagles in more than a year. Since its first release almost 40 years ago, the Silver Eagle has been, without exception, the world's most popular bullion coin, which provides unparalleled recognizability and liquidity. It's 3/9 fine, comes 22 a tube, 500 to a box, and is available at just $8.99 over spot while supplies last. Finally, the Silver Eagle is IRA eligible. And if you'd like to learn more about a precious metals IRA, call us, and we'll be happy to help you in that process. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.